Welcome to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love, with me, Elizabeth Cunningham. Has the way that love has arisen in you seemed out of place or even taboo? My mission is to expand the conversation of love in the world. Is it possible to have deep, loving, healthy relationships? Have you ever been curious about having more than one relationship or partner at a time? Get ready to transform in love, be courageous, and set yourself free. In this show, we talk about relationships, sex, love, and the ways we wish we could be, but never thought were possible. I shed light on things that are not always talked about with conversations about expanding love. The Elizabeth Cunningham Show starts now. All right, welcome to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding in Love. And today we are talking about trauma-informed polyamory, which I am so excited about this topic, not because it's a topic that is particularly brilliant and sparkly, but because it's so important to talk about. But before we get into that and introduce our phenomenal guest, a reminder is that the Elizabeth Cunningham Show is live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific time on the Transformation Network Facebook page. And then the show is aired by Thursday every single week on podcast platforms, on YouTube. Basically, just Google the Elizabeth Cunningham Show and you will find it every single Thursday. All links are also in the show notes. So on today's episode, we will be talking with Emily Iris about trauma-informed polyamory, excuse me. Emily is a performance artist and somatic magician on the journey of polyamory. She brings a personal lens to understanding trauma-informed polyamory and shares some of her favorite transformational tools for navigating dysregulation, reducing anxiety and shame, and working with the body instead of against it. Hi, Emily. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super honored and stoked to talk about very kind of unsexy subject.
You know what? It is an unsexy subject, but it is a very, very necessary subject. I mean, people, almost every single person, in fact, I would argue every person has some sort of trauma. And so when you're talking about relationships and multiple relationships, you're bringing that trauma into the relationship. And so being able to look at polyamory from a trauma-informed lens is not just helping an individual heal, but it's helping, create healthy relationships and, having multiple people heal and all of those things. So in that way, it's a really sexy topic.
Exactly, right? You have to dig a little under the layers, and then it's very sexy because it's about intimacy.
Yes, exactly. And I want to lay the foundation of what we're talking about today. So what do you mean? First of all, what do you mean when you say polyamory? I think that everyone has a different way of describing polyamory. So what do you mean by polyamory?
Yeah, I love that because it is really like build your own romance. Polyamory for me means loving and being in deep relational romantic connection with multiple people. That simple.
Brilliant. I had a mentor of mine that used to say, be bold, be brilliant, be gone. When talking about she was talking about public speaking specifically, but that it's bold and brilliant. I love it.
Thank you. It's a working definition. It changes as I change and shift, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the only thing constant in life is change. So here we are. And I think that, and I really think that polyamory, and I'm going to go on a little side tangent, but I really think that polyamory is beautiful in that way, that it is the practice of change.
Yeah.
you do have to move and flow with things, and things are going to happen and come up that you don't expect. Feelings are going to arise. It is like polyamory is constantly changing for each individual and for each relationship and just as a conversation in general. So yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, it is very apt to say that it is changing. So
Yeah, where the trauma monster usually rears their beautiful little head because it's scary. And when we're scared, we act triggered, and then we're in our little trauma stories. And we're kind of signing up for it when we sign up for polyamory to start dredging up all of that gunk that's been hidden in there.
yeah, and that is kind of the unsexy, unspoken part about polyamory. It's like, oh, great, awesome. You're discovering that you love multiple people. Okay, get ready to deal with all the trauma that you've never even thought about that you even have.
Right.
Fantastic.
At the strangest moments in time. You brought a cup of coffee before me. I'm having a meltdown.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Okay, so what is trauma and how does it present in relationships?
Yeah. So I see trauma as, I like the proper definition you can find in The Body Keeps the Score, which is going to be better than what I'll puzzle together. But for me,
Great
trauma,
book, by the way. Side note, great
yeah,
book. The Body Keeps the Score. All right, continue.
show notes.
Show
Um,
notes. Yes.
yeah, for me, trauma is an event that's out of your control, happens to you. You experience it in your body. And from that event, you develop a core belief that's now based around this event. So we have a story, and now we have a trauma that affects the rest of the story until we choose to look at it, face it, and really like open the big, scary grimoire of our trauma and see what's really going on. And it's usually just like our heart sweet little selves, our little inner child. And it doesn't come out that way.
Yes.
when we look, it's less terrifying. So it's shadow work and it's safe.
Yeah. Well, it's all a part of you. Right?
Exactly.
Like I think that's the in my own work personally, like that's something that's really helped me is like
Mhm.
it's a part of me, and so therefore it's on my team. We're on the same
Yeah,
side.
right. We don't want to shut it up, shove it away, cut it out. It's a part of ourselves that needs to be like integrated, and maybe don't let them drive all the time. But I know I'm in the car. And right. And like they still get to ride, you know, part of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, they're totally there. Oh my God, I love it. Okay, I feel like I could totally get away with all of my like idioms.
Here's another metaphor.
Here's all the metaphors that I've ever thought of, ever, or been told about trauma. Boom. But I love the driving the bus one because it does. It's
Yeah,
like if all of your stories, all of your emotions are all on this bus, on this journey called life with you, then it really is a great metaphor because then you're like, okay, who is driving the bus right now? Am I driving the bus? Is anger driving the bus? Is my story of abandonment driving the bus? Like, who's driving the bus right now? I think it's a fabulous metaphor to really like look at what's going on in your internal world and being able to like introspect and then solve for in those ways.
absolutely. It helps you have another story to attach to. Now we have a story of a bus driver and a bunch of feelings, and it's kind of cute and funny. You can detach a little bit. It doesn't seem so personal because that
Right.
is like trauma feels personal, right? Because something did happen, and then it feels like it keeps happening to you because the story is still operating. And in a lot of ways, we choose to keep having that same story. That part's wild.
Right. Yes. Well, that kind of ties in kind of like a double question is like So how does trauma present in relationships? And then
Mhm.
I think, and that in answering that question, I think the second question will be answered of why does polyamory need to be trauma informed? So
Mhm.
how does trauma present in relationships?
One of my yoga teachers says if it's hysterical, it's historical.
Hmm.
So if you're feeling like really hysterical over the cup of coffee that was brought to a partner before you, we all know like this is not about the cup of coffee. This might be a straw that broke the camel's back situation. This might be a trauma story, but whatever it is, it's coming from something that isn't true
Mhm.
within yourself. And I know I can say in my experience, so I'm an adoptee. I was adopted as a baby. And as adoptees, we grow up being told we should be super grateful. We're saved. Everything's fine now. You were a blank slate. You're okay. And
Mhm.
it's just, it's not true.
Mm.
So for me, I was bringing this trauma into my experience of polyamory with the story of unwanted.
Mm.
And it's like, well, yeah, I really was. I experienced this, and I would end up kind of, or I do sometimes still end up looking for evidence of how I'm unwanted. And this is one of the ways that like we keep our trauma cycles going. We keep feeding the story, and it's how we show up with meltdowns, insecurity, our fight, flight, freeze responses, long circular conversations that kind of never have a fix. It's just like I'm feeling, and none of it makes sense. But
Right.
yeah, that's how it looks.
Well, and I think that that's super relatable because that is so much of like relationship experience when things aren't going well. And it can
Right.
be really confusing if you don't know your, past trauma, if you're not trauma informed, if you haven't done that work. It can be really confusing like what's wrong with me? Like why can't I be normal in this relationship? Why can't I solve this conversation that seems to keep happening over and over and over and over again? Or why do I have meltdowns when over things that like my logical brain is like okay this isn't a big deal, like logical me is like this is not a big deal, but trauma me is like
Mhm.
you're not wanted, nobody loves you, like this is another piece of evidence of that story.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's a tally of all the evidence.
Here's all the yeah, exactly. Okay, well, we're gonna take a break. Thank you for I think that's such a solid foundation and it's just super relatable because again, I feel like everyone has some sort of trauma and from their past. And so we're gonna take a break. And when we come back from break, we're gonna go a little bit deeper into intersection and trauma, misconceptions about trauma, like really dig a little bit deeper into the shadows. So that is what we're doing. All right. Strap in, everybody. All right. We will be right back. I am. I'm gonna be like Oprah or like no, it's Ellen DeGeneres that has
Yeah.
people dance on. Yes, exactly. All right, welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, courageously expanding in love. And we are on our second segment talking about trauma-informed polyamory. So in the first segment, we really laid the foundation of what is trauma, what is polyamory, what is trauma-informed polyamory. And so I feel like from here, we're primed to go deeper into this. And so or rather, I know that okay, I'm just gonna ask this question. I'm gonna be a little bit more succinct. Okay, here we go. So what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about trauma?
That some people don't have it.
Hmm.
I'm in agreement with you there that everyone does carry some kind of trauma in their body. It might be generational. Epigenetics is like, that's real. It's in your DNA. I also think that people
Can you
who
share a
aren't,
little bit about what epigenetics is for people who don't know?
I'm not a scientist, but it's the study of looking at the way that trauma is stored in our genes, like it's in our DNA. And you can see how it's passed down. And if you look at it through all the layers, if you look at body, mind, and patterns, you start to see like we're all just living the same spiral of our generational trauma.
Hmm.
My dad was mean to me, his dad was mean to him, his dad was mean to him, and so forth.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not just like a behavior, it's actually in the DNA.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when people talk about generational trauma, it's not just like this theory, it's also the epigenetics is the actual scientific study of that.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I say I'm in agreement that everybody holds trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, off of that big umbrella, I think when people don't understand how trauma presents itself, that they have it, and that everyone has it, it's just operating off of a basis that is really lacking in empathy and compassion. And that can kind of continue to traumatize those who are facing their trauma stories. It's like being denied and just being told you can let go of it. Another trauma myth, just let it go. Well,
Just let it go. Just take a big deep breath in, breathe it
yeah,
out. See, it's
right,
gone.
yeah. I've got
Don't you
real
feel
pain.
better? Aren't don't you feel fine now?
Yeah, just relax.
Right. It's only
Yeah,
funny because it's really not funny. Yes. Yeah. But that is what people, feel. And I think, you know, why do you think or why do you see that people deny their own trauma?
I mean, personal experience, because I was terrified to open that box. That felt like, you know, the gates of hell. Here's the scariest, darkest beliefs about myself. Herein lies all of it. And I don't know that a lot of people have the desire or the curiosity to explore that kind of darkness or the support, because we cannot do this alone. Truly, we're not meant to do it alone. Whoa, my
Yeah.
body, like, yes.
I'm just like, oh my God, amen to that. Say that
Yeah,
10 more times. We cannot do this alone. Absolutely.
we're not made to. Like, again, evolution wants us in packs and stuff. I don't care if you're an introvert and a hermit, also, we still need support. We can have both.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I honestly spend 80%. This is a little known fact about me because I am very extroverted, but I spend 80% of my time alone. Like a
Yeah.
majority of my time I spend alone. And I love it that way. Like I design my life so that I am alone most of the
Right.
time.
Multiple partners, like
Yeah.
that takes commitment to the self.
Hmm.
And that's when we do the work. Like when we're in our solitude and know that we have support.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the second point of that being is that then 20% of my time I'm with people and I need that. I thrive off of it. I feed off of it. It gives me life. It feeds my soul to like be with people. And I feel and just to like, reiterate what you said, it's just like even if you are introverted, even if you are someone who really enjoys their alone time as I do,
Yeah.
we do still need each other.
Right. Let's not forget that, like, withdraw is a trauma response. Toxic individuality is a trauma response to this culture that we're all in. Like, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to need help. And I feel like that's one of the really vulnerable things about talking about trauma
Mm.
with partners and with people that love you is to say, like, I'm in it. I am in the uncovering phase. It's messy right now, and I need some kind of support from you. I don't want to give you my work. I'm not passing on like my codependent hooks. I am right. I'm trying to break that.
Right.
And I need you to know these are the stories that are shaping my reality right now. Can you be with me while I pull it all apart?
Yeah, because that was honestly my first thought when I asked the question, why do people deny their own trauma?
Mhm.
And obviously, like, your answer 100%, where it's just like, yeah, it's terrifying. Just like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's look at all of the scariest things about yourself that, by the way, like, are probably the reason why part of you hates yourself. Like, that was part of my trauma, was like, I hated myself. And
Mm.
so it's like, that's what was really scary about that, is like, no, I don't want to go into that part of myself. Like, I hate that part of myself. Um,
Right.
but the other part of it too is the asking for help. That's scary too, because what if, you're not, well, first of all, you're not supposed to ask for help anyway. You are supposed to do it on your own and be able to
Mhm.
figure it out.
Yep.
Um,
Trauma.
that's the story. Um, and also that, like, what will people think? Because since we are
Yeah.
so tribal, right? We are community based. We do need other people. It's like, what if I share these most vulnerable parts of me that, by the way, I don't like about myself? But if I don't love that, like, why would you love that? What if I
Right.
lose the people that I love by sharing what's going on with me?
And reality check, like sometimes we do.
Yeah.
Sometimes people tell you, I can't show up for you the way that you're asking. And then it's our job to not reinforce that trauma story and say, like, okay, this is not personal. This is a reflection of where they're at. But to someone who's in it or already in a spiral, that can be like super scary. So, of course, vulnerability feels like a risk.
Right. Yeah. So besides any other, well, I guess any other misconceptions that you see in trauma, or maybe any misconceptions that you see in, like, trauma and polyamory specifically.
Well, hmm. I mean, one of the misconceptions that came up for me is that like it has to be something really big.
Mm.
Like you have to have a horrific car crash or like, one of the approved traumas off
Right.
the
You
list.
were abused by a loved one over a period
Yeah,
of time. Yeah. Like,
right. And
yeah.
it's not that way. Sometimes something our mom said to us when we were 5 goes in so deep, we don't even know we formed a whole lens from it. And
Mm.
it can still be recognized as trauma. We don't have to take the label off because someone else had something worse happen to them.
Yeah. It kind of sounds like trauma imposter syndrome.
Right. Yeah, this is like the competition I don't want to be part of. And also, yeah,
I am not trauma enough.
right. My trauma's better. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think in polyamory, it's simply, it all comes up because you put yourself in a triggering situation. Here we are, multiple people breaking systems, doing things differently than almost anyone around you, telling family and friends about it who don't get it, just gives it space to all be shown and known, which is
Mhm.
also why I signed up.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things. It's like, yep, I signed up for this. Okay,
Yeah,
great. Awesome. Um,
right.
yeah,
Gotta talk to Pat about this.
yeah, yeah. No, and just to kind of, we are going to go on a break here very shortly, but just really quickly, what do you think would happen if we didn't do anything about our trauma?
cycles just keep going. You act out the stories with other people in your life, pass them on to your kids, pass them on to other lovers. Like, we just keep running laps around the same loops. And that gets maddening after a while.
The definition of insanity, doing the
Literally.
same thing over and over and expecting different results.
Boom.
Whew. Okay, well, we are going to go on a break. Okay, I promise to everyone that in the next section, we're actually going to pull out of this shadow. We're going to pull out of like, but this is real, but this is real. This is like real life every day. But we're going to talk a little bit more about, okay, what are some resources? You know, what is a more trauma-informed perspective that we can take on? What are some things as far as like doing the work? Like, what does doing the work mean? So let's talk about that on when we come back after our break. All right, welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show. Courageously expanding in love. And we are having the best time talking about trauma today. Isn't that odd? But it has been amazing having you on, Emily, and talking about trauma and really talking about what is trauma in polyamory, what does that look like, what does that even feel like recognizing what trauma actually is. And now on this segment, I would really love to talk about what can people do. I'm just gonna lead with that question. What can people do?
Right. So many tools. And also, we need to practice using the tools when we're not in our triggers, because that's really hard to do. So that's my caveat. But I think, like, first of all, as the person who's discovering, uncovering, and learning to integrate and love what happened to them, it's your job. It is your work. Yes. So I know polyamory has specifically helped me get out of some of the codependent cycles of like throwing my work on my partner and being like, well, you change because you're triggering me. And with multiple people, like, oh, it gets different. So for me, instead of launching into the big spicy feelings in every single moment, it's super simple. Just stepping back, taking a few breaths, getting in my body, going and finding some nature to touch, being barefoot. Like, really, the first step when we're in a big spicy moment is to just come back to the body, come back into the present. So many ways to do that. Just named a few, but like, this can be something that we share with our partners as well, to say, hey, when you see me starting to roll down the slippery slope and I'm like picking up speed, would you remind me if you have the wherewithal to get back in my body? Would you remind me, like, do you want to go get a breath of fresh air or a hand on the shoulder or, you know, a loving touch, whatever your love language is or whatever the signal you want to make is. I found having kind of like a safe word when something's happening can be really, really helpful in partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Having a safe word and then having like, you know, if I say blue, then this is what I need. I need you to give me a lot of space, or I need you to like come over and like hold me, or or I need you to say this phrase, or you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, like, without putting our work on other people, part of being in relationship is wanting to be of less harm to each other, you know? Like, I won't change me, but I don't want to hurt you. And if I can minimize harm by remembering a key phrase or coming in to hold you when you want to withdraw and run, it's a way that we can kind of extend healing to the one who is in need of it at that moment, because Lord knows we pass the stick around.
Yeah, well, it is kind of this delicate balance or finding this equilibrium between what what's your responsibility
Mm,
and what you can ask for in support. And I mean I personally haven't found anything that's like this is how you do that, and I haven't found anyone out there in the world where it's like this is how you do that. I mean some of the most renowned names inside of trauma is like it is a balance, it is an equilibrium. And so I also think that inside of like finding that balance, that it is deeply personal, and it's deeply personal in your relationships, and also that you are going to cause people harm.
yep. We're going to hurt each other for sure and disappoint each other.
Hmm.
That's part of love.
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, for me, it's not just like brushing it off, being like, well, I'm gonna hurt you anyway, blah 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 blah. But it's just like having that awareness to forgive myself for being hurtful
Mhm.
sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And when we're familiar with our partner's stories, we can start to recognize, like, oh, they're doing the unwanted story, or they're doing the unheard story right now. So maybe they just need to hear, like, I hear you, I see you, thank you. And it can just be like cutting the right chord on a bomb, can completely diffuse a situation instead of responding from a place of ego and, like, or the other myriad of ways we can respond to someone in a trauma response.
Right.
Fear, ego, judgment.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, right. Tools, though.
Yeah. Well, what are some resources?
I am a tapper, and this has been huge for me. So, in a trauma response, I say, I'm going to take a moment, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to take a walk, I'm going to tap on it, whatever's coming up for me. And there's this incredible therapy called EFT.
Mhm.
It's energy field tapping, and you use the meridian system of the body and you just tap and talk. You talk it out with yourself, like talking to your higher self. And you start with your trigger, you start with your trauma, and there's a variety of points you can use. And the whole, the arc of the work of tapping is to recognize the belief in the story that you're holding is based on something that's not true, a trauma, just
Mhm.
a story, and then replace it with something new. And often by the end of this, I've gone from shaking and crying to kind of laughing at myself and being like, that was so cute. My inner child is just freaking out right now. And I really just, now I'm going to go and eat some Lucky Charms and snuggle up in my blanket and I'll be fine. Something as simple as walking away to do this work,
Mhm.
it can really change the body, it can change our chemistry, and it can change the way that we show up in a relationship without pointing fingers and placing blame on everyone else for
Mhm.
the pain that we're experiencing. And it can help us get to our need. Like, what is the thing that's yelling in that moment?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, how did you come across? Because I've heard of EFT
Mhm.
before, and I mean I have people in my life that absolutely swear by it. They're like, this is the bet. They do it every single day. It's like
Yeah.
part of their daily life, right?
Mhm.
So how did you come across EFT?
So I started following Gala Darling. She's like this Insta spiritual, incredible mindset coach. And she's got hot pink hairs and tattoos and swears and does tarot. And it was like she spoke to me, and she does this technique and healed her eating disorder with it. She does tappings for anxiety, migraines, love in your body. Like, and that started to really, really change my life. And as I learned the scripts and learned the way that the arc works, I started doing it to myself
Mm-hmm.
after writing my morning pages and seeing what my story was that day or what was triggering me in that moment. I would just take 5 minutes, tap on it, move on with your day, drink some water. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, I went and got certified because I'm like, this is so transformational. I feel so great. I want everyone to do this.
I know that feeling. Yes, absolutely. It's like, wow, this works really well. I will get certified so I can teach other people this. Yeah, definitely. What, well, I guess I'll ask this. What would be possible? And we could, there's so many modalities. There's so many modalities with trauma. So we could use, EFT, but we really just like any modality that works for people in working through their trauma, because everyone has different modalities that works for them.
Yeah.
What would be possible if everyone was working through their trauma
All at once?
all at once? We were all like, imagine a world where we
Right.
were all actively healing our trauma.
To me, that is like the beginning of a new world. That's grand scale awakening. And if you bring it down to just like, here's a couple or a polycule that's all working on their trauma together, the potential for healing and breaking cycles and changing systems is huge. Like, it's for the benefit of all. When we heal ourselves, we heal up and down our lines and all around us because people see that you're changing.
Oh yeah, 100. And I love that you brought it back to polyamory and like the polycule. because
Yeah.
it's true, and that's something that I've experienced in my relationships as well. And seen, with the people that I work with, is that when you start doing the work, that the people in your life start to see that in you, and they either start to emulate it or they start to do the work, that like get curious and like start to do the work themselves.
Yeah. It's contagious
Yeah.
in the best way.
In the best way, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Well, we are going to go on our last break. And then when we come back, we're going to start to wrap up the show. We're going to ask our end of show questions. And you're promoting some things and you have a giveaway. And so I'm super excited. So everyone stay tuned for the promotion and the giveaway as well. It's juicy. All right, we will be right back. Welcome back to the Elizabeth Cunningham Show, courageously expanding in love. And this has just been a magical conversation with you today, Emily. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on and talking about trauma-informed polyamory. This has been a brilliant episode. Thank you so much, really.
Thank you. Thanks for being receptive to talking about the subject because it's important for me.
It's really important. It's absolutely important. And I truly believe that there are absolutely people who have been listening to this episode who have gotten just so much value out of it because you've poured so much of yourself, your experience, and your resources into this episode. So, again, just my appreciation. Thank you. Okay. So, last couple of perfect. Last couple of questions for the show is, what does love mean to you?
Ooh, what does love mean to me? Another working definition for sure. But I think for me, love is highest vibrational state of being, the truth of who we are. It's our most open self. It's mm, our most generous self. And it's something that we generate more of when we share it, right? It's not a scarce resource.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's expanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Big definition.
I love it. I love it. Right. If people got nothing else, what did you hope? What do you hope that they got out of
Hmm.
this episode?
So I hope that people can recognize that we're all carrying this stuff with us and that we can be free of blame and shame because of it. Um, it's not our fault. It's just our responsibility to deal with it. And I hope that people can come away with a sense of empathy and compassion and a little bit of an idea of how to help in the world, how to serve a little bit more. Even if you're just serving yourself, that's great.
You got to start with you.
Yeah, please do actually.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's an action that people can take?
Hmm. I would say to start doing your work, to start sitting with the spicy feelings, to see the therapist, to book the coach. I know a great one. And
Do
uh,
you?
yeah, there she is. And yeah, to just go forward without fear to start discovering all of this about yourself. Get a workbook, join a course, do something to start to uncover it. Whatever you're called to, you can trust your intuition on these things.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. All right. What are you promoting? And if you don't remember what you wrote down on the thing, I can share it with you.
It's the Vibrant Chaos course.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now opening on Portal 8.8. I am doing this with another shadow working, trauma informed babe, Vibrant Chaos. And we're doing a 6-month program
Oh,
that's
wow.
exploring the relationship between chaos and order, otherwise called in our culture the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So we're ungendering it and bringing it to you through a variety of modalities. There will be somatic exercises, journaling, um, access to chats, access to teachers, and all kinds of goodies, coloring pages. There's like honestly something for every kind of learner because we're all super neurodivergent babes. And I'm just stoked. It's such a juicy package. You can find info for it at the link in my bio at Emily Iris Embodied.
Beautiful. And that is also in the show notes as well, too.
Thank you. Cool. Great.
Perfect. Oh my gosh. And what are you giving away?
So I'm giving away one free tapping session. We'll chat, talk about the belief that you want to work through that isn't serving you anymore, tap it out, and I won't leave you feeling blue. There's always an energetic shift. We tap as long as it takes to get there.
Beautiful. Perfect. And that is also in the I don't have it listed as like this is the giveaway in the link. But you can just get that through reaching out to Emily.
Perfect. Yes. You can email me or DM me. I'm an Instagram person. It's fine.
Perfect. Awesome. And then your Instagram is in the link as well. But my next question is, how can people find you?
You can find me on my Instagram, Emily Iris Embodied. Also, Emily Iris Embodied at Gmail. You can find me in person, floating around West Palm Beach, teaching dance and yoga, feminine embodiment. And my website's under construction, so don't judge me, but it's emilyIrisembodied.com.
Beautiful. Excellent. Hey, my website is under construction right now too. No worries.
Aren't we all?
Are we as you know what? Such is life. It's
Yeah.
very fitting.
Yeah. I fully accept, love, and forgive myself.
You're doing a great job.
I received that. Thank you.
You are. Actually, okay, and we have time for this, so I am gonna say it. So a little like being able to receive exercise is
Ooh.
instead of like getting defensive about things, which you didn't. You did a beautiful job of receiving that. That was wonderful. But just saying thank you. That's true about me.
Yes. Yes. I think there's this episode of Friends where someone calls Phoebe flaky and she's like, I know. I'm always, yeah, I want to feel like that. I know.
Totally. No, yes, 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 yes. Mine is I'm late. I'm late a lot.
Not today.
I wasn't late today. I'm not late for some things, but like if you ask my friends, if they're like, what's something that you can count on Elizabeth for, they will say being late.
Well,
I'm like, yeah, that's true about me.
Someone's got to get there last. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh my God. So before we complete, I'm gonna roll with this. Before we complete, what would you like to be acknowledged for, Emily?
Oh, interesting. Acknowledging myself.
Well, I'm gonna acknowledge you.
Oh. Hmm. I would like to be acknowledged for the vulnerability I showed in showing up on the show today.
Beautiful. Okay. Emily, I acknowledge you for coming on to a show with someone who you'd only chatted with over Instagram and then email, and came on with a commitment to share with people about trauma and polyamory. And you came on and you shared vulnerably and beautifully. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Ah, feels so warm inside.
Awesome. All right. So we are going to wrap things up. Thank you, every single person, for listening as well. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, turn on notifications, rate, review, whatever it is that you do on the platform that you're currently consuming this on. We're live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on the Transformation Network Facebook page, and we are aired every Thursday on YouTube and podcasts. All links are in the show notes. Until next time, keep loving. You have been listening to The Elizabeth Cunningham Show, Courageously Expanding Love with me, Elizabeth Cunningham. Tune in live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on transformationtalkradio.com, where we shed light on relationships, sex, love, and the ways we wish we could be, but never thought were possible. Learn to love yourself and create the relationships you want. Connect with me at elizabethannCunningham.com. That's elizabethannCunningham.com.